I'm Nicole Crane, and today I am going to be doing a mini webinar series on Courtesan Queen, my latest program that I am running starting September 1st and then again at the beginning of October. So let's jump right in. So, have you ever seen or met someone and you were just like instantly obsessed with the idea of like kissing them, hooking up with them, or even marrying them? Do you love the idea of being with someone who has it all, whatever that means to you, whether they're the kindest, sweetest, gentlest person you ever met, or they're just so iconic that every time you think of them, you get really wet and your passion makes you feel like your heart and your entire chest are on fire? So, if you're already having really hot sex with the love of your life, this might not inspire you so much unless you feel like there's something missing. But once upon a time, I saw the hottest guy that I had ever seen, ever. And I thought I need to figure out who this guy is, right? So then the next time I saw him in a clothing ad, I Googled him, and when I saw his Facebook page, I saw that it was his birthday that day. So I was like, this is some cosmic shit right here, right? So I friend requested him, and as I was typing up a happy birthday message, he added me. So I tagged him in it, and he was like really kind in his response. So fast forward a couple months, and I went to the bar that I know he worked at and got him to drive me home to my hotel. And the following weekend, he returned all the favors that I had bestowed upon him. And keep in mind, I didn't really know this guy. I didn't really know for sure that I was going to see him that first night. I was at a convention and I was like, if there's time tonight, I know where he works. I'll just drop by and see if he's like really all the fuss that I thought he was. And as far as sales goes, he was like a total cold lead, right? But I definitely warmed him up, which was super fun and easy because, like, we had some of the best banter I've ever had, honestly. And he was really witty and charming in real life, and that gave me the courage to land my first big trophy fuck. Now, I didn't marry him or anyone else on this planet so far, and I did break my own heart by having unrealistic expectations of what that relationship could be. But I did get to have his liquid velvet purr of a voice in my ear, and I got to kiss his sexiest lips. So, at the end of the day, among other things that I can only share on Zoom, but basically, I picked a man out of a magazine, and I decided that I would have him, and then I did. So I've used these techniques to seduce multiple rock stars. That one's kind of my thing, my poison, so to speak. I used it to seduce this model actor that I just told you about, a touring pro dom, a professional dominatrix who would introduce me to a whole different world that she had spent years, maybe even decades, curating. Hot shit bartenders, a cute comic book author I followed the career of for forever. And so now I want to share my experience, my tips, my tricks, and my techniques with you. And I want you to get the hottest, wettest relationships, orgasms, and experiences that you've ever dreamed of. So if you tune in to the other 3 parts of this webinar series, I'll share some tips to get you started. So in case you're just joining me now, I'm Nicole Crane. And so we're continuing to talk about Courtesan Queen, my newest program. So you might have already tried to fuck your idols and failed. I'm here to give you hope and also some game-changing information. So it might seem too basic, but these are the exact tactics and mindset-shifting techniques that I've used to gain my own success. So I want to admit that there were 3 people I wanted and never got. But over time, I developed the idea that I always hook up with the people that I want, or I stop wanting them. So there was one musician who I was obsessed with for over a decade, right? In the early 2000s, we'd sexted on MySpace, and I'd send him nudes that I shot with my webcam. And he even invited me to his hometown, but in my heart, I didn't think it could really happen. So I never really tried to make it happen. And then years later, I did end up kissing him, and it was so good that I almost came just from having his mouth on my mouth. But he was in a relationship at the time, and he wouldn't take it any further. So meanwhile, his bandmate expressed interest in me every time I saw them, but I was holding out for Mr. Loverlips, right? I didn't want to be the girl who fucked my way through one of the best bands in that genre, or any band really. No judgment if that's your MO though. I'm here to empower you in your desire, not look at you sideways because it looks different from my own personal preferences and how I do things. But after many years and a few occurrences of, well, we'll just call him Perfect Cock because, spoiler alert, I'd eventually discover that that's what he was packing. But anyway, after a few occurrences of Mr. Perfect Cock trying to play grab ass with me while I wiggled away so that Loverlips wouldn't see me and like lose interest in me, I had a dream about this sexy, powerful man who had been chasing me all this time. I can't remember exactly the details of that specific dream. I've actually dreamed about this guy a lot. So he is also like one of those archetypical people that's just like so fucking butch and just like very opinionated and super fiery in his masculine, right? But that dream was hot enough that the next time I saw Perfect Cock, I found out that that's exactly what he had. And the next time I saw him after that, he proved that he also knew how to use it. So the moral of the story here is that you can't give up after things not working out just once. So some of these attractions built up over many years, but honestly, I enjoyed the fantasy of the pursuit sometimes. Not in this case, but more than getting what I wanted a few of those times. And even when the sex was just as hot as I hoped it had, that it would be, I still had a lot of fun dressing up and sorry, my text is so small. I had a lot of fun dressing up, really sexy, flirting with these hot men, having these hot and influential men giving me secret shout outs from the stage. Sometimes they weren't so secret. And it's a little bit less obvious how all this fits in, but the other lesson here is to be vulnerable. If I was too proud to see that someone really liked me, really paid attention to my actions and my preferences, I might have kept trying and eventually succeeded at getting the guy that eventually turned out to be an epic crybaby and had like a peevish attitude and a lack of tact in the way that they express themselves publicly. And he's kind of an embarrassing asshole, right? And I could have missed out on someone who gave me some really hot sex and some genuine sweet pillow talk with someone who really cares about his fans and the inspiration and the impact that he has on them. So the last lesson is an echo of never give up, but be the last woman standing. If you can hang out the merch table, do it. If you can be a patron at their workplace and find some excuse to get to know them or to let them get to know you, even better, then do it. Especially with touring bands though, like those guys get really bored and lonely, to be honest. Even if they're not romantically available, they're almost always desperate to be entertained and shown affection when they're on the road. And a lot of the time they've been away from their loved ones for a while, and it feels good to have someone familiar, even if it's your first time meeting. They love having someone friendly and authentic to hang out with, who isn't just like asking them to keep up this persona that they just got paid to perform as. Like they're basically off the clock at that point. So if you can show up vulnerably and let them know that you're interested, even if it's only just with openness in your body language, you don't have to be overly slutty or very active in your pursuit. You just have to kind of present that opportunity to them. It's going to allow them to relax into feeling safe to do the same. And that's where the real connections begin. All right, so for part 3, I am Nicole Crane, and we're talking about Courtesan Queen, which is my newest program. And if you have more specific doubts about your appeal, I help you with that both directly and indirectly in Courtesan Queen. So since I told the full story last week, I'll keep this brief, but the first time I met the first rock star I ever slept with, I was wearing a sports bra and I was already 30 years old. So I think we all have these ideals in our mind where we remember a time when we were like skinnier or more confident, maybe less broken, so to speak. But people like drama. It's something that most people feel kind of weird about it because TV teaches us that our imperfections must be fixed at all costs. I feel like social media also does the same thing, right? So these little quirks and imperfections, though, are exactly what your lovers become addicted to. And they can't get that from anyone else because it's specific to you. So last week I talked about falling in love with yourself through your old social media posts, but today your homework is one step deeper. I want you to make a list of things that previous lovers, boyfriends or girlfriends, or even platonic friends are or have been addicted to when it comes to you. And a lot of times you'll like read back in your memory and you'll remember people just being like, oh my God, I love this about you, right? So, for me, like, I have a magical pussy. People almost don't understand why they enjoy it so much. Like, they look at it like it's confusing to them, like they don't understand what's going on in there. The same thing with my blowjobs. And I'll teach you that part too, the technical skills themselves. But one of the biggest compliments to me is like when I'm giving head and the person looks down, like trying to figure out what I'm doing. It's really adorable. It makes me want to laugh. I try not to. But speaking of that, like so many people also love my laugh. Like that's something that I've been told many, many times. So that's 3 right there for me. So your homework is that you have to think of at least one thing. What is your addictive superpower? When you start to doubt yourself in important moments, whether you're walking into a big meeting or you're having drinks with your crush for the first time, I want you to take that secret knowledge that you're highly sought after for that specific thing, you specifically, and let your confidence seep out from that secret place into your entire body. And we'll also be playing with the idea that standing out is good. So a little less deep and a little more superficial, but wear the red dress. Wear the red lipstick. And I'm going to give you a list of kiss-proof, make-out-proof, and blowjob-proof lipsticks in the practice for week 1, so our practice meeting on Tuesdays. So you can be discreet if you need to be, and otherwise you can just be confident that you never have lipstick on your teeth. So I'm going to show you little life hacks that I use to get looking really amazing in all kinds of wild outfits, and the mindset work that helped me strut into each venue like I was fucking the owner. So no matter what you think is holding you back, I can work with you to turn it all into something that helps you or no longer holds you back. And it's an internal and external makeover. All right, so part 4. I'm Nicole Crane, and I'm talking about the new program that I just introduced starting on September 1st, and we're starting another round at the beginning of October. So today we're talking about external fears. So I'll admit that this one I'm struggling with a little bit right now myself, but I know some of you might be worried that you don't have access to anyone right now, let alone rock stars, right? So how do you even date in these times? That's a big question that people talk about a lot in the circles that I'm in and also with me personally. So for me, there comes a point where I need to feel the person's energy in person. A lot of times it's to make sure that their pheromones smell good to my body. So this technique might not be a good gamble if you're in the same boat that I am now, but if you don't necessarily need that, if all you need is like an amazing personality and to see that they're hot or one of those things, not the other, I will tell you that I never would have had a chance to be in the same room of this person if I hadn't played a really big game. A really big game. There was a really big game as well, but so this is how I hooked up with my teenage idol, a very talented comic book artist. So once upon a time, I noticed that he had posted on a mutual friend's post, and I recognized his name, so I kind of lurked him to see if he was like the artist, right? That I had known since my teenage niche comic book days, right? And it turns out that it was. So I added him on Facebook and struck up a conversation about an event that he had attended. So he told me about a few other events hosted in his area. He lives in a much bigger city than I do, so it was really easy to be impressed, genuinely. And then months later, I took a risk and I asked him to sponsor me to one of the parties that he had told me about in that initial conversation. And like, this is where some finesse comes in for sure. Like, since it was a very adult setting, I made sure to tell him that I didn't expect us to be, that us attending together meant that we would hook up. But I did tell him that I was open to the idea if it kind of organically evolved that way. And I also made it clear that since I was kind of asking a favor from him to have his help to get to attend to this party, that I didn't expect him to babysit me all night if he had previous commitments that he had already planned for that specific evening. So maybe it was novel for him. Maybe I was just really good at voicing my expectations and boundaries in a really respectful manner. Or maybe he just thought I was hot and he was willing to vouch for a total stranger in his own community. But with the condition that we meet before for lunch, which was even better, I got to hang out with him twice in that case before the event. He ended up taking me to my first orgy, and we made love in a room full of sexy, interesting, high fashion, moaning people. So the moral of this story, besides the fact that, like, you know, after lunch we hung out for like basically 2 days nonstop, and I just had to go back to my hotel to make sure that my stuff was still there and to get ready for this epic party, right? If you're cool and you're willing to take no for an answer, you can make connections online. If you're pursuing someone who's in their masculine most of the time, it also helps if you give them the opportunity to be a big man, to show up as your hero, and then really appreciate the fuck out of him for doing that. If your request is really interesting, it might be too enticing for him to pass up, or, you know, if it's a woman, for them to pass up, even if it's just for curiosity's sake. So in Courtesan Queen, I'll teach you how to play up your intrigue so that they'll be thinking about you all day, wondering what is going to happen next. All right, so I am Nicole Crane, and this is the final part of the mini webinar series on Courtesan Queen. So if you've enjoyed hearing about my experience and you'd like to hear more about the practical things that you can do to get the same results that I did, check out my sales page for all the details about the topics that we cover, the dates of the weekly beauty, dance, sex, and magic skill building practice Zoom calls that happen each week, and any of the other details that might help you be a full yes in your body to this playful work. If you're already a full yes, there's a purchase button right at the top, and the first module drops this Friday. So the doors close on Sunday at midnight on August 30th, so be sure to jump in now. And the next time I offer this course, the price will increase by over $200. So I'm excited to see some of you for our movie night this Wednesday. I'll be hostessing with a viewing of Showgirls as part of our learning tools and curriculum. So if you join the group before then, the link will be in the course, which you'll get instant access to. So I'm really looking forward to our work together, and we'll talk soon. Mwah. Thanks so much for joining me. This was really a lot of fun. Thanks. Bye.